another episode of Inside the Playbook brought to you by the Sports Playbook. It's a really exciting time here at the Sports Playbook as we have our very first guest from the world of cycling. It's none other than Luke Tuckwell. Luke is a 21-year-old from Australia living in Europe. He's a road cyclist and he's riding currently for the Red Bull-Bora-Hansgrohe cycling team. As you'll learn through the podcast, Luke is a talented individual who has incredible discipline, drive and determination that has seen him rise to the ranks. For people to understand how good Luke is, in Luke's very first European road cycling event, when he was 17 years old and still in year 12, he won the race. The only Australian in the field, and he won the race. I had the privilege of chatting with Luke about what it's like to ride for a Red Bull-owned cycling team, but more importantly, we chat about Luke's experience wearing the Maglia Rosa in the Giro D'Italia Next Gen. Luke's lived experience is something you won't want to miss. So without further ado, let's dive into this unique and eye-opening conversation with Luke Tuckwell, Australian road cyclist killing it in Europe. We've got another special episode today. We have Luke Tuckwell, and it's actually our first cycling episode. So Luke, I'd love to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Thanks, mate. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
And I can see the jerseys in the background. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later in this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I hope so.
Well, Luke, just to open things up, I'm going to actually throw some this or that questions at you. You ready for it?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Tomato sauce, in or out of the fridge?
In the fridge.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Summer or winter?
Summer. If you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said winter for some reason, but now definitely summer.
Is that being in Europe?
I think so. I think it's now a European thing. It's just for the last 4 years, I've only actually had summers. So I think I've just become used to summers now. So
it's beautiful.
It's great.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs. That's just, if you say cats, there's something wrong with you. So.
Yeah. Yet to come across a cat person, but I'll let you know when that comes through.
Okay, good.
Sleep in or an Arvo nap?
Sleep in.
Yeah, good stuff.
For sure. Arvo naps, it stuffs up the rest of the day. Like you have a nap and then it's like the next 30 minutes after you wake up, you're just questioning your life decisions. So sleep in for sure.
It's a steep descent, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then last one, mountain climb or a time trial?
Mountain climb, for sure.
Very good. I feel like we're going to have to unpack that a little bit later.
Yeah, definitely. There might be a few people going, what the hell are they talking about?
Wiring-wise, there must be something going on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to give, I guess, viewers a bit of an understanding as to your background, where did you grow up, and what that kind of setup looked like for you. So you able to chat to us about, where you grew up and what that looked like for you.
Yeah, I was born in Mudgee. That's where my parents are both from Sydney, and then they moved to Mudgee around 2000, and they were working there. And then my sister and I were both born there. And then when I was 3, we moved to Orange in New South Wales, and that's where we still live. Well, that's where my parents still live, and my sister. All I can remember was all I wanted to do was ride a bike. To be honest, there's no real track record of cycling in the family, which is pretty uncommon thing. It's kind of a sport that, especially in Australia, you really only get into because of your parents. If one of your parents had done the sport previously when they were younger, you kind of naturally would follow that progression. But yeah, that didn't exist in my family. Dad liked watching the Tour de France, like kind of a lot of Aussies do, is the month of July, they will watch the race, but that's kind of the only bike race in the world that they know that happens. But yeah, I think 5 years old, I said to mum and dad, I want to go to the Champs-Élysées in Paris, which is where the last day of the Tour de France finishes. When I was 8, I got to go there, which is still like a life highlight for me. And yeah, I played soccer as well until I was 12, and then I got to the point where it was like, right, kind of got to pick one or the other. And yeah, I went with cycling, and that's what I've stuck at for the last, I just turned 21, so I've been racing for, I think this is my 12th year of racing already. So I think I started when I was about 9. So yeah, it's kind of something that really only, that's the only thing I know basically. So
What would do you remember your very first time that you, I guess, jumped onto a bike and what that kind of feeling was like? Do you remember that?
I don't actually.
You
I
don't?
actually don't remember. My parents would take me to Bathurst, which is only 40 minutes down the road, because Orange didn't actually have a cycling club, or
Really?
they didn't have a cycling club, or they didn't have like a juniors program or anything. But Bathurst did, and like really quite a good one. And still to this day, I'm still with the Bathurst club, and I've never spent a night in Bathurst, basically.
Oh,
So
right.
yeah, they would take me down there when I was about, oh, I don't know, 6 or 7 maybe. And it was like once a week on a Friday, I think. And it was just riding around in the velodrome and on the grass on the inside. Just, yeah. And I think that's my first memory of like starting to actually go, oh, this thing is quite cool. Obviously, I had a bike and I remember riding that around as 4 or 5 years old. It might have actually stemmed when I was like, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years old. I was obsessed with like when I was still in Mudgee, I had this like red tractor and that's all I wanted. And it was it was powered by pedaling. And it was my obsession. It was just like up and down the veranda, just on this tractor into town with mum and the dog when she'd go for a coffee or something and I'd join. I'd ride this thing everywhere. So that I might actually be kind of where it started, as well as my dad tricked me that the Tour de France was the Wiggles with all the different colored jerseys. Like
That's
when I was
pretty
so
fair.
young to not understand like a bike race. And he would say, "Yeah, that's the Wiggles." So I'd be screaming, "Go Greg!" at the TV when the yellow jersey would come on, and it was probably Armstrong at the time or someone, and I'd be screaming, "Go Greg!" So I think subconsciously that's where it all started from. So
With
yeah.
with the velodrome when you were very first riding on that, was it did you love the velodrome or was it just any time you could get on a bike was just heaven for you?
I think it was just any time like that. I kind of remember that being like the highlight of the week type thing. Or, oh, okay, on this day we get to go to Bathurst for the afternoon. It was nothing serious. It was literally racing up and down on the grass, and maybe if you were lucky, you got to actually do a lap or two on the tarmac at the end. But it was just like the most basic, like getting kids into sport. Like you'd see soccer pitches around towns and it's people like 6 year olds doing skills and stuff. It's literally just that, but with a bike. Like you're weaving in and out of cones, stuff like this. And the way that Bathurst had it set up was really good. And it was literally you were just doing it for fun once a week, and it was everyone had a smile on their face doing it. Like there was no pressure, no performance, no nothing. It was just getting kids into the sport basically.
I'm curious from your perspective because I guess you're on the road now to being a professional rider and are a professional rider. Why do you think Bathurst does it so well at that cycling group? Is there a secret sauce as to why they're doing it so well in that area?
I think the secret sauce is just time. I think that's the biggest advantage that they have, that the cycling club has been like around, I think, since the 1800s. So it's been like a really established like establishment. Like they've had people come through and see, and I think especially Mark Renshaw. I don't know if you're familiar with him or anything. He's did the Tour de France, I think, 12 or 14 times. One of the most successful lead out men and Australian riders of all time, is from Bathurst. And his mum, and he literally did the same progression, like starting out doing nothing. And his mum is still like the junior coach at Bathurst and was my coach for 6 years when I started to get serious with it. So I think having that like fundament, like you have even just having one guy come out of the town that goes on to be one of the biggest riders, just like breeds having then a successful program and other people want to get involved. Like you see, the UK is the perfect example of having the Olympics in 2012, and it kind of cycling, but also other sports after having the Olympics, it just took off. Like I'm too young to remember. I was born after Sydney Olympics, so I don't know if the same thing happened in Australia or something. But sports, I just know that sports, especially cycling in the UK, after watching one guy at the Olympics, Brad Wiggins, and on the track winning, it just got a whole bunch of people involved. So on a micro scale, I think that's what happened in Bathurst. So
It's really fascinating because I think it's one of those things like, especially like that one town, everyone will really get behind it. Like you said, like with Mark, like it happens, and I think
Yeah,
it's really special when that happens. I think that's the power of sport, right? Like you can really get behind one person, it can really transform a whole community.
exactly. And I mean, cycling is such a small sport in Australia that not a lot of people know about it, or not a lot of people have a lot of interest in it. Um, but even just to get one guy that for 3 weeks of the year is on everyone's TV screens and people have something to cheer about because it's really the only race you can watch wall-to-wall coverage on for free in Australia. Uh, is yeah, it only takes one guy, and it's a sport that is small and not many people probably have much interest in, but it can still bring everyone, like, commit everyone to the same cause and watching the same thing and support this one guy doing it. And I think that really just helps then. There's a trickle down effect that then goes on to families and kids that want to then do the same thing. So
Definitely. Do you remember when, I guess, cycling for you started to get, I guess, a little bit more serious and you thought it could potentially become a profession or you wanted to pursue it more long term?
I think it was when I was 14, I was year 8 at school, and I had a quite a good winter on the road. So I should take a step back. Traditionally in Australia, summer is on the velodrome and then winter is on the road. And it's kind of the season, kind of the switch happens after national champs. So that's usually around March on the track, or what it was March would be the national championships for the velodrome, and then September or August would be the national champs for the road. And I remember I had a really good year. I got selected for national champs, which was in Perth. Went over there, and I won my first medal. And I was like, okay, that was really cool. Like, and it was like my first year of like actually doing structured training and everything, taking it more seriously. That just kind of being my sole focus, sporting wise. And yeah, I think then after that, each year it kind of builds and builds, and then you start to get better and better, and slowly. Well, for me, it was actually quite a slow progression up. Some people just have years where they just excel, or they have a massive period of really good performances. But for me, it was really quite a really slow build up. And then when I was 17, actually, I was in year 12. Um, I had the opportunity to go to Italy and race for 3 months. In the middle of year 12, like it's kind of like, okay, this is the commitment I got to make. And yeah, I did that. I missed a whole term of year 12. But in the end, it was completely worth it. And I think after that trip, it was when in 2022, after that trip, it was like, okay, I think I can commit full gas, like really commit my life to this now.
It's an interesting point. Like year 12, I guess, is such I guess you look at it from a school point of view, it's such a crucial year, but it probably is, it's a really good opening segment to like your building your support network. And for you, it's your close-knit family and friends. Do you remember what it was like, I guess, getting that opportunity to go over to Italy and what that conversation was like to go, I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to go over there, but it's in the middle of year 12. Like it's a bit of it's not a double-edged
Yeah.
sword, but you kind of know what I mean, right?
No, I know exactly what you mean, because it's like it's it's up until that point the most important, usually the most important event in year of your life, basically.
Hmm.
But I remember it was around October, November. I got a message from who was and still is Simon Clark, an Australian professional. Um, and he was like, I had this opportunity in Italy. What do you think? And I was like, yeah, like initially I'm keen. Like yeah, I've been wanting to go to Europe, and it was after COVID, things were opening back up. Like it was a realistic uh opportunity. It wasn't going to get shut down because of the pandemic or anything. Like it was happening if the opportunity was there, if I wanted it. It was a pretty easy discussion with my parents. They were like, "Yeah, like this is what you've been wanting to do. Like it doesn't really matter that it's year 12. Like because unfortunately with the cycling world, if you're year 12, so when you're 17, 18, it is the most important time for an Australian to go to Europe. Like if you don't, you've the likelihood of actually going professional, if you don't do that, is you've basically probably half your chance of ever going professional is gone if you don't actually go in that year. Just experience-wise and exposure-wise. And then, thankfully, my assistant principal at school, who was also my French teacher, who's also had sons highly involved in triathlon. She was all into cycle. Like she really was a huge supporter even from when I was in year seven. Was like, yeah, go. Like, I told her about the opportunity, and she was like, yeah, go. Like, I don't care that it's year 12. Like, this is what you've been wanting to do. And yeah, the school were completely behind it, like completely supportive of it. They were like, honestly, take as long as you need. Like it was the whole term, and I didn't end up extending the trip at all. But they were like, yeah, just go. Like, no worries, do as much work as you can. Like it's literally all good. So yeah, I had the support of everyone, which was incredible. There was no one going, oh, I don't know about this. Like maybe you should consider your other options or finish school first and then look after it. But I think in the end, it was the best decision I could have done.
How special, right, to have, I guess, like not only your family, but to have such a supportive principal at the time that backed you and was able to not let you go over, but really just gave you a platform to boost you. And
Exactly.
and you head over there. What was it like heading over to Italy to do your very first, I guess, European race? Because that's being an Australian flying over. Were you nervous? What were the first emotions that kind of came to mind for you?
The first week, if there was a taxi that would have pulled up, like out the front of where I was staying in Italy, and was like, I'm going straight to the airport, I would have got on that taxi to go
Yeah.
back home. Like, I was like, the complete, like, yeah, it was a bit of a shock, to be honest. Like, thankfully, I've been in the position where I have been able to travel with family holidays.
Hmm.
So the whole traveling experience was fine, but like on the ground, no one really spoke English. I didn't speak Italian. I was somewhere that I didn't know, a completely new environment, going like, what the hell is going on? You know, Italians are notoriously unorganized, so I really had no idea what was going on. They had no idea, um, really what the plan was. I mean, they knew I was coming, and I was really well looked after. They're so hospitable and everything, but they didn't really have a plan either. And that first week was really hard. But it was actually funny. I go to my first race. I was like pretty emotional all week about it. I was like, don't really want to do this race. Kind of just want to settle in properly. Uh, did the race, and I won my first race. So and then it was like, oh, this is this is not too bad. And yeah, that was my first ever road race win and stuff. So it was like, oh, right. And the team was like, all these Italian guys were like, oh, like this isn't. We haven't just got some guy from Australia who's like struggling to get around. Like he's won his first race. And yeah, kind of the trip got better from after that first week. It got a lot easier. But yeah, it definitely was a shock. I was 17. Like, you know, you're going to the other side of the world in a country where you don't speak the language. It was a shock, but it was really, really hard. But honestly, I think it was the best experience to set myself up to live in Europe.
We will take a short break on this episode of Inside the Playbook with Luke Tuckwell, but it's time for a really exciting announcement here at the Sports Playbook. We have our very first partnership announcement, and it's for Coffee. For Coffee has come on board to back the Sports Playbook. For Coffee, what is it? It's a local coffee shop located in Mortdale in Sydney, New South Wales, and it's run by the amazing Johnny and Fifi. For Coffee, we'll deliver the coffee, and the Sports Playbook, well, we'll take care of your sports news for your commute. So if you're in Mortdale, come down to For Coffee on Railway Parade. That's the other side of Mortdale. Grab a great coffee and a $7 bacon egg roll. That's right, I'm not kidding about that pricing. Johnny will greet you with a smile and make you an amazing coffee and a bacon egg roll. Rumour has it that Johnny is king of the kids, and it's a great family spot. Here is more of the podcast with Luke Tuckwell. Well, funny you mentioned that. It's time for our first photo, Luke. I'm going to show you
Okay.
this. I want to see if I
Yeah,
can get.
that's the first race.
When you see that, there's a lot of emotion in that celebration. And now knowing what your experience was like in that first week, what does it mean seeing that photo and knowing your very first race in Europe, you won?
I think it kind of sums up why I was there and the support that people gave me to be there. And like it kind of felt like, okay, this is really something I can do. Like it wasn't like I went over for 3 months and just got my head kicked in, and then it was just like really demoralizing, and you were like, oh, I don't really know how I feel. I don't know if I fit in this sport or anything. Um, yeah, it kind of sums up that I think that race and that celebration, that finish line kind of sums up that I was in the right place and I was doing the right thing and the right sport, and that the week before that was worth it in the sense of the term. So
It's very special, mate, and congratulations. Like
yeah,
that is a huge
that's
achievement to go over and being Australian and take it to the Europeans in like their backyard. It's pretty cool to just even talk about. And you win that race. What's then next for you, Luke? What's I guess you win that, you obviously get attention from that race. What's I guess your next progression from that point?
obviously the Italians were like, what the hell is this? Like the only non-Italian, I think, in the race. There might have been some Ukrainians or something as well, but the only non-European in the race. And they were like, so then there was interest, and the guy who was running the team, was like all over it. He was like trying to contact every Italian agent and team. Like, I'm sure he was trying to set up the next 20 years of my life to stay in Italy and stay near him. Um, but Mark Renshaw, who became a mentor for me and probably and still is, put me in touch with his agent, um, who's a British guy, one of the most well-known and respected cycling agents in the world. Put me in touch with him. He had a development team at the time. And yeah, we kept in touch over the period I was in Europe. And then ultimately that led to me riding with them in 2023. So yeah, without that kind of going to Europe, and then without Mark putting me in touch with his agent, I would have probably most likely never have gotten on that development team. Like, and that's what I mean by going over as at that time in your life as an Australian is the most important, almost the most important time, because without that, you would have already been a step more than a step behind. If I went post HSC. So yeah, that was kind of the follow on after that trip was I got noticed by a European team. And yeah, that's kind of the next logical step in an ideal world. Like that was kind of the almost the best place to try and go straight out of juniors as an Australian who I wasn't a super talent or this freak of nature for just I'm just throwing words around. Of like that European teams notice. There's been some juniors in Australia that break a world record on the velodrome, and it's like right, that's gains attention. But yeah, that wasn't me. So that was the logical, and that was the progression that happened after that trip.
Really curious because you brought up something, and I guess as not an athlete, but I guess in sports media, you hear a lot about sports agents and their involvement with athletes. I guess I'd love to hear from a professional athlete's point of view. What does having a sports agent on your side and being an Australian and I guess that transition period, how important was it to have an agent by your side and help get you into a next development team? Because it can be quite scary and daunting being out in the like the big bad world in some respects.
Yeah, well, it was a situation where and my agent, who still is my agent, Andrew McQuaid, it was his development team.
Right.
So it was like being on the development team meant you were part of the agency. Um, so it was one of the best English speaking development teams in Europe, just full stop. Yeah. So for him, it was like it kind of was a dual interest of okay, you join the development team, you're then part of my agency. And then if you go on to being a really good rider, he's got first dibs on the return on that investment that he's put into when you're a 19, 18, 20 year old. So in terms of getting onto a team, having an agent, I can't really speak too much on it because it was his team. Uh, so it was really only dealing with one person, which was him. But especially when you come to the point where you start talking about making that next step up to the proper professional ranks, it's such less of a burden on me to have to deal with that management side of it all. Like the kind of he's the middleman that can ask the difficult questions or kick back on things that maybe as a rider you don't really want to be in that position. Okay, if you're 35 at the end of your career and you know the sport and you know how teams work and you know the culture and you can stand up for yourself and you're comfortable having those conversations, you can do it yourself. But as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old Australian guy who is still quite new to the European cycling world, like being involved in it, it's like such a advantage. Or I mean, everyone has an agent, but it's so nice to have someone who knows what they're doing having those conversations for you. And it's just a stress that it's an added stress you don't have to worry about. And the less stress you can have as an Australian living in Europe, the better. So
Definitely. And so you joined that development team, and it's now 2023, I guess, in the timeline period. What
yeah.
does that next period of time look like for you? Are you feeling, I guess, a little bit more settled in Europe, or are you still feeling, I guess, like a little bit homesick at this point?
Uh settled, probably not. Homesick, not at all. Uh, the the experience on Italy kind of made it easy for what was to come. But then I moved to Spain. I did 6 months in Europe that year. I was in Spain. It's your first year of under 23. You've come out of juniors, and like you're racing against guys. Like my first race was against guys who were World Tour pros, and they'd just come off the Tour de France in France. It was a 4 day, and I unfortunately got like some stomach issues, and I still to this day don't know what it was, whether it was some hotel food or something. But even the days that I was like healthy, it was like this is a shock. And like that's the point where you go, okay, this is like a really, really big step that I have to make. This isn't just something you can go away for a week and fix on. This is like a 6 months of training progression just to get 5% better, just to not to just to get dropped 30 minutes later, like just to survive another 30 minutes. So that 2023 was quite a big shock. I didn't do anything. Like I just kind of was surviving, riding around. Like yeah, it wasn't ideal. I didn't get to actually race that much, so you kind of lose that development process as if you don't race, like it's really hard to take that step without the racing, especially in cycling. So yeah, 2023, it kind of felt like a little bit of a waste. Like it kind of felt like it didn't take that much. I got to train a lot, which was good. And I feel like the biggest takeaway of 2023 was I learned how to be at home and I learned how to train. And I learned the routines and the structure and how to, yeah, basically learn how to train, which I think in the end was quite a good lesson to learn and quite constructive for the future.
I was going to say, are you naturally quite a disciplined person, or do you find that you have to, I guess, work at that craft and kind of get better at it?
I think I'm naturally really quite disciplined. I feel like I don't feel like I have to try that hard to be disciplined and do it all. But then when I really feel like when I have to work hard, like when I feel myself, I have to work hard, I know I'm gaining an advantage or I'm gaining a few extra percent because I'm going, okay, I know it comes naturally to me. So if I'm really having to focus in on it, I know that it's something that probably most people won't can't put themselves in a position to do. So yeah, thankfully it comes really quite naturally to me, which is quite an asset.
And you're on that European circuit, I guess, for that 6 months period, so over summer. Do you then head back home after that European season?
Yeah, I came back to Australia in October. Um, and national championships in Australia is in usually in the first 2 weeks of January. Um, and in Australia, it's like everyone is on form for it. Like, it's the first race of the year, even for Europeans. It's the first UCI race of the year. Like, it's people look at the results of Australian nationals because it's the first thing of the year. Um, and initially, my plan was to be in good shape and really try to do well. Um, Start training up again after off season. I really only had 2 weeks off, which in hindsight was nowhere near enough. Um, and I got to, I think the second week of December, and I was like, what on earth am I doing? Like, I just felt like I lost the drive a bit. I was like, it's still 2023 and I'm training full gas already. And I knew I was going over to Europe in February. The next year, I was doing a full year in Europe, um, like a full racing program. So I knew, and I was going full gas efforts in December at home, going, what on earth am I doing? And I was actually working 20-ish hours a week as well, lifeguarding, and I was just going out to do these 4 hour rides with effort simulating the race. And I was like, what is going on? But so then I really in December just completely lost the drive for it. And I was like, I just felt like I was going too hard too early. Completely dialed it back. I was doing like 10 hours a week when Australian teammate who I actually live with here was doing like 25, 20 full gas. He won the race. So for him it paid off, and for me at the race I DNF'd. Like, I didn't even finish it. I was like completely out of shape for it, but I was like, I don't care. Like, I did get to the point where I didn't care about nationals because I was so focused on the European bit and so conscious of not going too hard too early, because the Europeans in December are just riding around, talking to each other, going to coffee rides for 3 hours. Like, they're just completely chill and everything. And we're going full gas in December and January, and I'm like, I cannot mentally do this. So yeah, I then kind of had that period in Australia. Didn't have the nationals I wanted at all. As expected, I knew it wasn't going to go well because I hadn't trained for it basically. Um, and then yeah, came over to Europe in February, and it was like a switch flicked in my head. As soon as I got to Europe, it was like, right, it's go time. And felt like I was completely mentally fresh for it and everything. And yeah, I was full gas. I was on. As soon as I got to Europe, it was like this massive, massive change. And yeah, just it went from there.
Do you feel like when you're in Europe, that's just, I guess, mentality, get off a flight, you're kind of at home, you go, I'm on? Is that kind of like the
Yeah.
mental switch you tend to make?
I actually find it really challenging to train really hard at home now. Well, at home, Europe is my home now. So when I'm back in Australia, I find it really hard to train really hard.
Mm.
Like, I can do small rides and everything, like, your typical pre-season after a month off, you're not actually training that much. You can't train that much. Um, but even that, I find it more difficult than being in Europe. I don't know what it is. Most Australians find it so much easier to train for in Australia, but I'm like, it is just, I don't know what it is, but it just in Europe, it just clicks for me. Like, it just is. I can just go so much. I'm so much more mentally focused on it in Europe than I am in Australia, and I still haven't worked out why that is the case.
It's really fascinating, isn't it? And you're, I guess, in February, you're leading into the big European season. I guess for people out there that don't know, what does your load kind of look like at this point? So like week to week, how much are you kind of riding? What kind of to your threshold? What are you sort of riding at this point?
It kind of depends because it kind of depends where your target races fall. So there's a massive period between the end of March and all of April in Europe. It's commonly coined as the classics. Um, and guys who are probably 70 to 75 kilos, like strong guys that could probably fit would be a pretty slim guy in rugby or in footy or something. In cycling, they're big guys. They go all in for that period of the year. So they're training, they're already going really hard at the beginning of the year. But for me, my goals are past that date. I'm the wrong physical build to do well in the classics. So it's kind of at the beginning of the year, that January, February period, it's more of a quite a big load period. Like you're not going that hard intensity. You're kind of riding around just a pace you can sustain for 4 or 5 hours, like low intensity efforts. Like it's really building that base. So then by the time you get to the end of February, start of March, and the racing starts and the season really starts, you then have the base to work off that to start doing really high efforts and really training your VO2 max and everything. So last year, that 2024 period, that January was in Australia, I had more motivation. February, I came over, I had training camp with the team, which it's a really high load for 2 weeks. Recover from that, and then it was the racing. The racing kicked off. After that, kind of had training camp, 3 weeks at home, and then racing begins. So, yeah, and then you're on the circus for multiple months.
It's nuts. And you say like the classics are like that March April period, and in
Yep.
the Giro d'Italia, that's a little bit after the classics. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So the professional Giro d'Italia happens at the end of May, and then the under 23 version basically follows that 2 weeks later. So it's usually around the middle of June. The first 3 weeks of June, it'll fall within one of those weeks. And my goal last year was just to be on the team to do it. Like I just wanted to be on the start line. I didn't care how I got there or anything. I was like, last year I was all in for 6 months, the first 6 months of the year up until the Giro, and I didn't care what happened after the Giro. I was like, I just want to be on that start line. I had a really good 3 races before it. I had really far exceeded my own expectations and the team's expectations of me. So then I already knew quite far out I was doing the Giro. So it was like, right, I can now really focus on doing this race last year. And then I got to the Giro, and then that outseeded the expectations I had going into that race. And then, come the end of it, I finished 10th overall. I was really consistent across the whole race. Like it was the first time I'd ever done 8 days of racing, stuff like this. Like, yeah, I came out of that race and I was like, this year is already a success. Like I ticked every box that I wanted, that I set for myself in January. So
Could you put into perspective for people, I guess, that start line? So you finished 10th, which is a remarkable result in I guess, your first time doing it. How many riders are actually at the start line? How many finish the Giro d'Italia?
I think usually about 170-ish will start it. 140, 130 guys will finish. So just kind of a 15% that guys won't finish. But even within that race of people that finish, there's only then a select percentage of that try to get the best overall classification. So out of that 140 guys, for example, who finish, there's only probably 30 guys that are actually trying to finish as high as they can overall as possible. So it kind of gets the structure of the race goes from, you probably have the bottom 30 just surviving, the middle 100 sprinters or team helpers, or they're going for they don't care about the overall. One day they'll go really hard, one day they'll go easy on the mountains, and they'll target what they want. And then the top 30 are guys who are riding really hard every day, trying to get the lowest accumulative time. So kind of gets broken down. But yeah, usually I think this year there might have been about 40-ish guys that didn't finish the race. And I think after the first road stage, I think almost 10 guys didn't finish the first road stage. So, But that's a political topic for another time about why that situation's happened. But that's fine.
We won't go into that one.
No, no,
I'm
you don't need to go into that.
Yeah, I'm curious about I guess the term like team rider that you mentioned there. I guess we see it a lot in the Tour de France, but then obviously we won't see it when those other races are on. Could you explain to people, I guess, yeah, the role of a team rider and I guess the process of who is elected as a team rider? It's like this is not really the race for you. You're just going to help manage your teammate. Like, how does that kind of go about in a professional rider setting?
Well, on the biggest scale, so on the Tour de France scale, they'll for teams like for teams like UAE, which is the biggest team in the world, and they have the best rider in the world, Tadej Pogacar. Um, the whole team, the whole focus of that team is for him to win the race overall at the end. So there's 8 guys on the team, and 7 guys are completely solely focused on helping Tadej get the best result he can. And these guys are paid millions of euros just to not get a single result from themselves, just to help Tadej win. And there's other teams built like that as well. Um, but really, there's the guys make professional careers out of helping other people win. In cycling, like it's an individual sport that is a team sport. It's such a complex way. It's such a funny way for a sport to be set up because the individual gets all the glory, but the individual doesn't win without his whole team sacrificing their own end result for him to win. So people prep all year just to help and be in the best shape possible to help someone else. Like it's quite a funny concept, and it's such a and for some people, it's like they just cannot help others. Like they just don't have that mindset of I do all this work and I don't get to go for myself. And those are usually the guys who end up being leaders. Um, but yeah, but then as you trickle down to that, if you trickle down off the Tour de France and then you get to the under 23 Giro, there's very few guys in there who are solely team helpers. Like everyone is kind of there to still ride for their own result because everyone is 95% of that field don't have a professional contract. So everyone is looking for a result in this race because it is the biggest race on the calendar for under 23s, has the most exposure. So it's really quite tricky even more when you get to under 23s and especially the Giro because you have teams, but even within those teams, people are riding for their own results because they don't have a professional contract. Like they're still on development teams. It's kind of like it's not like a rugby pitch. We have 15 guys all like trying to work together to win. It's like at the Giro this year, we had 5 guys, or teams have 5 guys, and each one of those 5 guys wants to get a result. It'd be like being on a footy pitch and the team's divided into 2 and they're both competing against each other, but they're on the same team. But it's like, okay, which one of these group of 7 people can score the most amount of tries? And it's like a competition within a competition. And it's such a fine balance of it going really well or it going to so badly and nothing comes out of the race. Everyone's annoyed with each other, really bad dynamic, and people start fighting. Like it happens. So it's really quite a fine balance for teams, and especially when you get to the amateur ranks and the junior ranks and the development, it's like, yeah, the team dynamic is really important, and it's such a hard balance and such hard conversations for team directors and team managers to have with some riders, being like, okay, you are theoretically the best 5 guys on the team are at this race, but at this race, that doesn't mean that you get to be the leader for this race, pretty much.
It's honestly very fascinating, like just hearing it from your perspective, because I think most people wouldn't even understand that kind of insight. And once people kind of know and tap into it, they actually, I guess, transforms their experience of actually watching cycling and going,
Once you understand it, it's a completely different sport. Like it is such a really hard concept to understand, especially as Australians, because cycling isn't really that big of a sport in Australia. But once you wrap your head around the concept of it, it is a completely different sport. And then you start to notice things that before you never would have picked up on.
Mate, it's time for another photo. It's
Okay.
don't worry, it's a flattering one.
Okay. Yeah.
See that one?
Yeah, yeah, I see it.
I guess I'm really curious to get your thoughts because I guess when I see that you're you're an Australian, you're riding Europe, and you're racing under the sponsorship of arguably one of the biggest brands in the world in Red Bull. I guess there's obviously a side that you get perks to it, but I know that Red Bull is very dedicated to their high performance and managing of their athletes. I guess as a rider, I'd love to get your kind of understanding as to how, I guess, Red Bull helps you, but also, I guess, what that photo means to you.
So Red Bull is really quite new to cycling. Um, I mean, you see some of the Red Bull marketing stuff, and it's guys jumping out of planes and guys jumping off the side of a mountain in a wingsuit. Can't really do that in cycling. Like there's been guys like Tom Pidcock and Wout van Aert. They are individual Red Bull athletes. Um, so Red Bull had very small visibility when it came to the world of cycling. With these two guys, were had connection with Red Bull. Um, Rumors started to then float around that Red Bull wanted to get involved with a team. That team happened to already be the team Bora-Hansgrohe, who has Australians like Jai Hindley already on the team. Um, this time, 12 months ago, they came into the sport. They bought 51% of the team of Bora-Hansgrohe. So now they are the majority owners of the team. And then at the Giro last year, I was approached by one of the guys on the team who was setting up this new development program that Red Bull wanted. Red Bull came in and they like, we need this development program. Um, they kind of pitched me the idea on the ground about it. I was already very interested. As soon as I got back home, I had a meeting with them, and I was completely sold on the vision and everything that with what Red Bull were bringing. And honestly, it's an advantage, and it's something that I don't think any other team in the world has because it's such a global brand. Like they were like, okay, we're coming in with this investment and this money. We could theoretically we could go out and buy the best rider in the world out of his contract, bring him into the team, and win the Tour de France the following year. Like theoretically, they could have done that, but Red Bull and their focus went, no, we don't want to do that. We want to put that money into a development program, and then in 5 years' time, have someone out of that development program win the Tour de France or be there in the Tour de France. So to have that advantage that they have this focus on us as athletes, um, as us as young athletes that theoretically we're not even on the World Tour professional team. To have that investment and support from Red Bull, yeah, and I mean it sums up in that photo to stand there and you've got Red Bull blasted across your chest. And we get to ride with Red Bull helmets and everything, and it's just so special. Even every time I put it on, is like this is cool. Like it's just cool. Like having that Red Bull family and the support and the way that they've come and kind of they haven't shaken things up, but it's definitely brought a new way of thinking and a new just that feeling of knowing that you are supported, like, and you will be supported for a really long time. Because, sponsors can come into cycling and they're only really only around for 2 years, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of teams, the cycling team doesn't last for that long usually because of sponsorship. It's so heavily reliant on sponsorship. So to know there's something like Red Bull that owns the team and you have that backing and that long-term backing as an athlete, especially in cycling, it's like it's the golden ticket. So
It's truly remarkable. Like you see it, well, now they've brought it into cycling, but Red Bull are doing this in other programs as well. Like Formula One, you can see it in their development program. They bring in the likes of Ricardo, Sebastian Vettel. Like it's very cool to see that not only just for one sport, but I guess transcends across their Red Bull brand. And it's now been brought into cycling, which you're one of the, I wouldn't say the lucky ones because you've worked very hard to get to this position. But yeah, you're backed by a huge brand. It's truly remarkable.
yeah, it is kind of insane to be 20 years old and you get to ride around with Red Bull and all my friends at home and found out I was now riding for a team that was Red Bull, was like, what? Like, Red Bull? Like, this is like insane. Like, it's something that so few people ever get to have association with. And we were really lucky. Where that photo was taken is actually in October. They have a team camp. They used to have a team camp. Now that team camp is at Red Bull HQ in Austria. So we got to go to the Red Bull, like the whole week was set up, organized by Red Bull. Now they pour a whole lot of money into this October camp. We get to go to the HQ. We're walking around all the buildings. It's like a university campus in Salzburg where this Red Bull HQ is, as well as the global head office in Fuschal where we were staying, which is 45 minutes from Salzburg. It's just like you're walking around the Alpha Tauri showroom and like everything, and you see all the F1 cars, all the Red Bull athletes, and you start to understand how big this company is. Like they sell 12.5 billion cans of the drink a year. Like it's insane. It's like 60 sport teams, 600 athletes. Like it's honestly so ridiculous how big the operation is. So you just know that they are completely and 100% invested and supported in it because it is their identity now. Like it is the brand's identity is sports. So
It's honestly fantastic. And I think it probably
yeah,
leads into a really good segue where we talked about at the start of I guess, the episode is the jersey behind you, which is the Magdalena Rosa. And I'd love
yeah.
to get your, I guess, understanding is there's obviously the jersey and you earned that, but you get to the start line for the 2025 Giro. How are you feeling at the start line before the start of the race?
I'd had up to that point, I had a pretty good year. Like in terms, if you looked at it up until results wise, it wasn't as good as last year. But the physical level I was on was it was night and day comparison. And we had a three week altitude training camp in Andorra, which is a little principality in between Spain and in France in the Pyrenees. We had a team camp there, and it went really well for me. Like I was riding the best I'd ever had just in terms of numbers wise at this camp, and I was like, okay, I know I'm in good shape. Like I just need to get to this race now. But one of my teammates, Lorenzo Finn, who's 2 years younger than me, actually. He was junior world champion last year, has done really well this year, winning races and everything. He came in as he just is the best rider on the development team. Like that's just how it is. He's a great guy. I get along really well with Lorenzo. We've basically done every race with each other this year up to that point. But we'd gone in saying, okay, Lorenzo is on paper the strongest here and probably will be the strongest. Thankfully, I had up my sleeve. I'd already done the race. I'd already done well in the race. I was riding into really good shape. So it was like, okay, we also have Luke here as well. We're not going to throw away at the beginning of the race any of those chances because we want to have the cards to play when the race came around. So going into the race, I knew I was riding well, but even at the beginning of the race, my sole focus was helping Lorenzo to do as well as he could. I tried to at the beginning of the race not throw away any opportunity, not do anything stupid, not make any mistakes, but ultimately I was there to be Lorenzo's number one helper, basically.
When did that start to shift for you, I guess, a bit more into your favor?
The first mountain day, which was day 3, uh, after about 10 minutes of the climb, there was only 7 of us left, and Lorenzo and I were both there. One of the Norwegian guy attacked. He's already professional. Like he's actually dropped down a category. He's actually dropped down a step to come and do this race because he's one of the best talents in the world. And he's like, okay, I can come to this race and hopefully I can win this race. He attacks with about 6K to go on the climb. Lorenzo and I are both in the group. We've come into this race naturally going, okay, Lorenzo is the leader. I then come to the front of this group to try and pull this guy who's just attacked back. I am riding the front of this group, Lorenzo behind me. Over about 3 kilometers, I actually bring this guy back into the group, like I catch back up to him on the climb. Lorenzo attacks off that pace, goes right, starts riding away with the guy who won the race last year, who is arguably the biggest talent in the world, like the biggest upcoming rider in the world. Lorenzo starts riding away with. I then fall back into this group just behind, and they're all completely done. And I was like, okay, if I've just gone this hard for the last 12 minutes, like pacing, and these guys are completely spent, like they can't, they're not bringing Lorenzo and Yano back, like they're gone. I was like, okay, I'm obviously stronger than these guys. Uh, get to the Belgian guy, the guy who won the race last year, wins. Lorenzo's just behind him. I've actually followed a few of the other guys who have attacked out of that group, then proceeded to drop those guys as well at the end. So I've actually ridden away from the guys who were sitting behind me when I was pacing. I finished fourth on the stage, only 20, 30 seconds behind the winner. And it was like, oh, okay, like my level is really good. And the team was like, oh, okay, Luke's level is really good. So we finished this third stage, and we have second and third already overall on GC. We have second, third, and 10th on GC already, and it's like, okay, like we're in the best position possible. The next day, we just kind of keep it under control for the general classification. One of our other teammates gets in the breakaway that stays to the finish line. He gets fourth, so it's like I go back to what I said before about people racing for themselves. We tried to give everyone in the team the opportunity to have a day where they went for their results. And for one of this guy in the team, that was his opportunity for the day. He got fourth. He was annoyed with it. We were like, mate, that was a really good ride. So that was his like opportunity for the race. And then he was content after that and happy to help out and help the team goal. The next day we go, okay, we've got three guys in the top 10 of general classification, all within a minute and a half. So theoretically, the guy who was in 10th only needed a minute and a half on the Belgian guy to get into the pink jersey. I was only 27 seconds or something behind. So it was really it was really close. Even first to 10th was separated by a minute and a half, which is really, really close. There was a massive climb in the middle. We get over it we went full gas on it as a team. We get over it with about 15, 12 guys. We're the only team with three riders, and that's our three GC riders. And we had this plan to get over the top, isolate the guy who was in the pink jersey, so he had no teammates, and then just start bringing down hell, like just trying to attack and get ahead of him. We get off this descent, and we're going full gas with this plan. And then thankfully, I'm the one that got in a group that started riding away. And it was a group of 11, I think. But I only had four guys who were like committed to actually riding. And there were four guys who were on GC, on general classification. So there's six guys on the group who have their GC riders behind going, no, we're not helping because you're gaining time on our GC rider. And then at the highest point, we had 2 minutes in front of the pink jersey. So theoretically, I'm leading the race ahead of the guy who was previously leading the race by a minute and a half. We get to the end, and we've stayed away. Like my group's won the stage. I've gone into the pink jersey. I have 25 seconds on the guy who's in second, 35 seconds on the guy who's in third, and then a minute and a half to the guy who was in the pink jersey. So it's like the team plan went perfectly. And I also have 2 minutes then on my teammate Lorenzo. So then that's when the plan shift, and it was like, okay, this is the situation. Luke's riding well. Lorenzo, you're still riding well. We keep you in the race as well. But that's when that big shift was after the fifth day. It was like, okay, we've got a different factor now in this race that we didn't. The team now has a different factor that they didn't know they were going to have. So yeah, that's when it changed. Sorry, it's a very long explanation, and I don't know if you got lost on it, but it is kind of, you need the context to do it, to understand it.
And I appreciate that, Luke, because I think it gives people a new perspective as to, I guess, what goes behind the scenes of a professional riding team, but then also the ever-changing movements within a stage. Like things can change literally within, like you said, 6Ks. And it's
Yeah, and it's all, and that's also what it's now a team sport. But because we had three guys working together from my team, Red Bull, against one guy, and then you're working as a team to put that one guy under pressure. That's when it's completely a team sport again. Like suddenly now the individual, it doesn't matter if it was myself, Lorenzo, or the other teammate Callum, who's a British guy. It didn't matter which one of us got up the road as long as one of us did, and we put that pressure on. So thankfully it was just from a selfish point of view. Thankfully it was me because then I got to be the one going to the pink jersey and have that exposure. But yeah, it was really that day was evidence of how much of a team sport it is.
And I'm sure you'll love this photo as well. Again, we kind of go back to it, but being Australian on the European circuit, like arguably one of the biggest races, you're on the top step spraying champagne. Hopefully, it's champagne, of course.
Yeah,
What was that feeling like for you, I guess, in those first few moments of that?
it had been almost 2 years since I was on last on a podium like that, and it was in Italy when I no 3 years, and it was in Italy when I was a junior on that first trip. Was the last time I'd been on a podium getting to do that. And my dad had actually flown over for Australia for the whole week of the race. He came last year for the last 4 days, and this year I was like, I'd really like you to come for the whole thing. So dad was at the finish on that day, like he was basically in tears knowing that I'd gone into the pink jersey, and that whole podium presentation, everything was just so special. Knowing that I'm in the lead of this race, this is something that I knew I was physically in good shape before the race, but not physically shaped to. I didn't think it would be in that I would be in that situation. So yeah, to be there like the whole time in the race, I'm like, okay, theoretically, like I am in the pink jersey now, but like anything can change up until the end. Like not until, and then it was when I crossed the finish line, I was like, okay. And the team were going, like the team staff who were at the finish line were like, they knew I was in the pink jersey. I knew in my head then I think I was in the pink jersey. Um, yeah, it was really really special, and it's something I will never forget.
It is truly remarkable, and you should be so proud of yourself. And I think I'm about to show you another photo, but I guess the analogy is you go into the final stage, you still have the Magdalena Rosa, right? But the situation becomes you're being hunted. The hunted
Yeah,
becomes the hunted.
yeah.
How I'll show you this photo. I guess from your side, you head into that day, you're in the lead jersey. What are you feeling? Are you feeling nervous? Are you aware of, I guess, the not expectation, but I guess what's behind you and what's trying to chase you down?
Yes, I was very aware of what was going on. Like the day before, I'd lost 15 seconds to the guy who was in second, which wasn't ideal. Like I just didn't have the energy left in the last 10 minutes of the climb, and he just kind of slowly started riding away from me. So I lost a little bit of time, which wasn't ideal, but I still had 11 seconds on him. That day was actually my birthday.
Seriously.
So to be in the pink jersey on my birthday was incredible as well. But going into that last day, I was hyper aware of the situation, and what was happening. And I would say they put the most difficult climb on the last day of the race. So like in the Tour de France and the big Giro, if you usually go into the last day in the leader's jersey, you've won the race. This was not the case. Like they really shook it up on the last day for anything to happen. And that photo actually is like 3K to go, is like really small little climb they had at the end on cobbles. And the guy who was behind me by 11 seconds is now ahead of me by 15 seconds. So actually on that climb, I'm not in the pink jersey anymore. And then come the finish line, they had a big enough of a gap. Him and actually the Norwegian guy who I chased down on the third day had a gap on me and the guy who was in second had enough time in the end. So at that point in that photo, I was solely focused of just riding as hard as I could to the end because you just didn't know what could happen. Um, but at the same time, I knew it was slipping away from me, which was, yeah, I can't say it's the best feeling in the world. So
No, it's a shocking feeling to if you really want to put words into it sometimes because it's like
yeah,
you're like you say you're in the jersey on your birthday. You've got, I guess, all these backers behind you, but sometimes it's just doesn't work out. But I guess you cross the finish line. What's, I guess, the first emotion or feeling that kind of comes to you at that point?
I was just disappointed. Like it wasn't really annoyance or anger or anything because we did everything perfectly. Like as a team, it was it was just perfect, and it was literally the last 30 seconds of this climb, this big climb that they had in the day. The second time up it, I just lacked the last little explosion of power to follow the other two that somehow found this energy that I still cannot work out how they had a kick like that. Um, so it was just disappointing. Just yeah, I was just purely disappointed, and I just was yeah. The team were I was the hardest person on myself. Obviously, in the end, the team would have been nice to win, but they were still really overjoyed with how the whole week went and the end result. But yeah, I really wanted to win it in the end. Um, and yeah, I was completely disappointed. It felt like yeah, it felt like heartbreak. It was just like oh, I was so close, and it's slipped away from me. Like you've just I lost it. Yeah, that's it. In simple terms. I just yeah, it slipped out of my grasp.
I guess you look at it probably almost now a month from when that happened. Are you proud at the result and what you achieved, or do you look at it and go, "What could it have been?"
It took me a week after the race to finally start to see positives out of it. I was just like, for the week after, I was just like, oh, and you're kicking yourself. And I was at night laying in bed and you're just replaying if I did this differently on this day, if this happened on this day. But that's just, it's just irrational thinking because there is nothing you can do. And in the time you were going full gas, so there's nothing else you can do. So then it was really after a week, I would say, and I started to get back on the bike after the sickness that I had straight after the race. And yeah, it was kind of, I started realizing how big of a result it was. And I remember I then was actually out on the bike the other day, and I remember what I said to the team in October about what I wanted, what my big goals of the year was, and it was to get podium in a 1 day race in April called Liège-Bastogne Liège, and I got eighth, so I was pretty close to that, and it was to podium the Giro, and I got second in the Giro, which is the equal best result that an Australian has ever gotten in the race, and as disappointed as I was, like now I find it like at this point in time, I'm like, that was, if you told me that at the start of the, when we were at altitude camp in Andorra, that would have happened in the race, I would have said there's just no chance. So it's now I'm starting to go, wow, okay. And even after the race, mum was on the phone and she was like, I know how disappointed you are, and I'm not going to tell you how you should feel, and how you feel is completely understandable. But what you have done, it has changed your life, which is true. Like, yeah. So now I'm feeling more okay about it, and I'm sure with more time, I will feel better about it. So, but even now, it's still a bit. Oh, would have been really nice, but yeah, it's just how sport is and how life is sometimes.
I think that's the thing. And you mentioned there, like you had that conversation with your mum, and like you said, like can't change what's been, but you've got to be really proud of, I guess, how far you've come and what you've achieved at that point. I guess for people to, I guess, try and understand it, you're trying to get onto, I guess, the World Tour, so get like a full professional contract. Post the race, has there been any conversations or things like that that have progressed, or have you been noticed a little bit more in that capacity?
Or there's definitely in the race and post the race, there's definitely interest then from other teams who are going, okay, like, is this guy under contract? Is this something for that we can? Is this someone who we can pick up and bring onto our own team? Um, I actually have a already had a contract with the development team for 2026 as well. Um, and I'm still committed to staying in the development team for next year. But I mean, as much as I can say is like, uh, this is where it was nice to have an agent because he was straight on it. Like he knows exactly what he's doing and how to work around it all and everything. But there's been conversations. There's been positive conversations. So yeah, from my side, I can say that the talks are happening or have happened, and yeah, it's a positive outcome. So
It's uh it's a really exciting time for you, Luke. I think you should
yeah,
be super proud of yourself. It's no mean feat what you've done, and you've done a remarkable job representing Australia on the world stage. We're coming to the end of the podcast. Hopefully, I haven't chewed your ear off just yet. But I'd love to, I guess, from your side, you've experienced a lot so far, like being away from home, being in the European circuit, traveling. What's been the best piece of advice that you've received from someone that's helped you along the way so far?
it's funny you say this because I always when I'm out training and I'm thinking if someone asks me what's the best piece of advice, like what on earth am I going to say? Like it's always a question that at some point it does get brought up and you get asked, and people can just give like the generic answer of oh, got told to have just enjoy it or have fun or enjoy training or get up early and do it and stuff. But I think the best piece, and it's very individual and it's very niche in the way that it probably only applies to non-Europeans. And it was, if you're making this step and you want to make this step, Europe is your home. Like Australia will not be your home for the next 2 decades if that's the long term. Like if this is your home, so act like it is. This is your life now. You're not just going somewhere for a year and then you just get to go back home at the end of it. And if you're constantly thinking about, I can't wait to go back to Australia, I can't wait, you're just doomed. Like it's just. So I think the best thing I got told is this is. And I can't, there's been multiple people who've mentioned it, and it's now something that I always think about now. And it's like this is your base. Australia, unfortunately, it's quite sad to say because it's who I am, but Australia is not your home for the next foreseeable future. And I think that the advice then shifts into a mentality of yeah, home is Europe, and that's just how it is. And I've thankfully I've embraced it. So
It's really exciting for you, Luke. And I've got the final question for you. I'm actually going to throw to you. So on the Sports Playbook, we ask all of our guests who you would like to challenge to next see on the podcast. So I'll throw to you,
okay.
Luke. Who would you like to next see come onto the Sports Playbook?
Sam Constance, is that his name? The guy who took Australian cricket summer by storm.
Yeah.
I think someone like that like he's kind of worked his way up the ranks. Like, is a young guy has to deal with all these new pressures and environments of like, his life changed overnight basically by getting that test start at the MCG. Like that, I mean, on a much, much, much smaller scale, my life has also changed after a week of racing in Italy. But I think someone like that who has all eyes of Australia on, like I think having someone like that, I think he has a few interesting conversations and experiences that he can speak on as a young guy who yeah, has gone through that process in the last 6 months.
Mate, it's a very good guess. I'll have to try and get on, that's for sure.
Yeah, I thought I could give you someone else, but I got to give you a bit of a challenge, so
Why not,
something
right?
to work towards.
100%. Well, Luke, I really appreciate your time. You've been so transparent, and I feel like the viewers and listeners will get a great understanding, not only A, to your journey, but also just the behind the scenes of cycling and getting to know more. So well done your achievement. You should be so
Thank you.
proud, and you're representing Australia so well. So thank you so much, Luke.
Thanks, mate. No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
I hope you've enjoyed this podcast with Luke, and I want to thank Luke for his time and generosity with the episode. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Inside the Playbook, brought to you by the Sports Playbook. Please rate the show and send the podcast to someone who may need something for their commute. Until next time, we will catch you on the next play.